Thank you for this opportunity. I have to put an apology in. I've just done a whole series of presentations as a STEM ambassador to a bunch of 10-year-olds, inspiring them about engineering, getting them into that flow of what a great career that would be. So and I wasn't too sure what presentation I'd sent through, so if you see some interesting steam engines and things, just roll with it, do some whoops if you need to. But that's what looks like we may be all right. There might be the odd UAV creeping in, we don't know. So I am the head of the built environment for the Knowledge Transfer Network, and we've been hearing today a lot about the challenges are. These are the things that we've got to think about. And a Knowledge Transfer Network environment is somebody saying, ooh, I've got an idea. I have a really interesting opportunity. I think I'd like to talk to someone about that, but I need help. And this is about that kind of environment. So a lot of people, you heard of Innovate UK? Everybody familiar with that? The bank, as we like to call them. Innovate UK grant sponsored the Knowledge Transfer Network. So we're not actually Innovate UK, the Knowledge Transfer Network. We're an independent operation that is operated by a grant through Innovate UK and others. So looking very briefly at what we do, we're an independent, as I just said. We are a purpose-built operation with a unique view of the innovation landscape. We're not just about the built environment. We're actually 16 original KTNs all in one, all members of staff for the same organisation, all talking to each other. It's quite interesting. You can talk to me very quickly. I can find out what's going on in the healthcare environment and very quickly connect you to some interesting sectors through some very simple steps. We're here to help people like yourselves engage in the funding landscape and the competition landscape, not just with Innovate UK, but others as well, particularly Horizon 2020. And we're here to help you through that process. We're not just here to say, oh, I've heard of a competition. We're actually here to actually help you through that. We will be there if you needed some help to actually understand what the scope is. We'll be there to everything but actually write it for you. And as I said, this also very much involves the Horizon 2020 landscape, and we've got a dedicated team actually unpacking that, particularly for the built environment agenda and infrastructure. On the basis that we have to be quite quick, one of the things that the KTN does is we bring people together that wouldn't normally get the opportunity to meet, because that's where the magic happens. It's very difficult to find yourself in an environment where you just happen to be with the right people, and we try and engineer it so that you have these opportunities. It's about connecting organisations to, as I said, the Innovate UK toolkit, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But why do we do this all? Well, to increase the opportunities for business in the R&D agenda. It's about increasing the level of activity of opportunity so that people have successful businesses and pay more taxes, and it really is as simple as that. We are also here to facilitate the R&D and capture that as a more value add to the UK overall, and increase that collaboration between businesses and businesses. And I had some great examples only last week where I was at Nottingham connecting a business to local businesses to stop them reinventing a wheel that somebody had already done previously, saving effort. We like to be this go-to organisation that people that do have an idea and they just want to get on and do something that they think is a challenge but will be of opportunity and benefit to them, that they just need that connection. So Innovate UK, for the built environment particularly, it's a quiet year. We've got a quiet year coming up, but that means they're listening. This is a great opportunity to be talking to people like me saying, if I had my way, we would be looking at this particular landscape for future competition calls. But what we can say about Innovate UK, bit of a state of change at the moment, they are looking at accelerating the UK economic growth. They are looking at building on innovation excellence with the UK and developing catapults, particularly with a national innovation network, and working in the research community across government. And I'll talk about the funding models a bit later on, but actually looking at how those funding models would work. So why are we doing all of this? Well, 6% of the high growth companies in the UK developed 50% of the UK's employment growth. So basically, high growth companies are very productive. And it's about trying to grow and nurture those high growth companies. The funding landscape's interesting as well. If we looked at the overall investment in R&D, we've got 1.67 trillion in 2012. Of that, 27 billion, which is 1.7% of GDP, 1.3 came from the government grants. We had 5.6 coming from the scientific research budgets, and we had the tax credits playing their part at 1.4 billion, And interestingly, 17 billion from the private sector. But that is below the EU average. So one of the roles that the KTN has is demonstrating that investment in innovation works. And if we can show that to other businesses, we'll be able to increase that 17 billion and therefore try and get at least at a level with the EU average. And interesting here, we look and see that in terms of the R&D investment companies globally, 3/4 have bases in the UK. So globally, we're seen as innovators, which is kind of a good thing. Okay. So I talked about the funding landscape, and just in our backyard in the built environment, that's the funding landscape. So I don't know what you think, but it looks quite complicated. One of the things that the KTN does is just understands that and talks to you and applies what might be relevant. But it is a complicated landscape, and we know that at the moment, those involved with this are trying to hide the wires and make it much more simpler. And getting updates on what that looks like, definitely talk to me, and I can connect you. Lots of networks, as I said, and I work with the built environment one. And if I looked at what we're doing in order to enable you to meet, collaborate, connect, we obviously have to have some priority things. And there they are. Now, hopefully to the people in the room and the topics that we've been talking about today, there'll be something in there that sounds almost interesting. There might be things there that you would like to maybe get involved with. This year, it's very much about showing you what's going on here and inspiring people to come in and talk to us saying, but we want you to influence agendas in this direction. Very much open to conversations. At the end of this presentation, there'll be an email address, and if you've got particular things that you want me to feed up the line, send me an email. Bullet points are good. I like bullet points because I can get through them quicker. Okay, we'll just start unpacking that a little bit there. So construction innovation, we're looking at the digital agenda. And we're seeing this a lot. And in fact, influenced directly from government centrally all the way down, it's about this word digital. Digital infrastructure, integration of systems. That seems to be where a lot of people are placing their money. So it's about the digitalising of the construction per se. That's got a big BIM agenda. Asset management, monitoring. I think somebody already picked up that or was consulted on how they would reduce the overall life cycle of certain assets. What can they look at? Well, we've got some big collaborators working with us like HS2 doing exactly that question. Where can we look at the overall cost-saving agenda and how can we do it? Who's got the interesting ideas that we could talk to? So very much the sensor innovation and deployment, building monitoring case studies, and also the whole life value costing. We like to share things, but we're also open to what everybody else is doing on this site. Off-site manufacturing, not new, I know, but very much of interest to some of the top 16-tier construction companies. How can they use that? What new ideas are going on within that they would like to deploy? Had an example yesterday with Skanska. So it's all about the smart agenda as well, and also about materials, very big with composites, when you're looking at asset management and asset construction, which may be resilient to climate change adaptation, right down to material level. Our heritage is obviously the energy performance of buildings, and we've done a lot of work already on future energy management systems. I can see faces here that attended that event at Canary Wharf over the 2 days. So future energy management, and we're taking that forward with some sort of gearing, or I don't like to use the word special interest group, has all sorts of connotations, but there's a kind of an energy about it. And Innovate UK and others, including the Science Research Councils, are interested. And we're also looking at building performance evaluation. We've done an awful lot of work over the last 6 years, collected a whole pile of data on an awful lot of case studies, but we now want to give that to you. We want you to use it. And I'll show you quickly something about that later on. And also the supply chain integration. We'll be unpacking that a bit to inspire innovation investment. Infrastructure. This is more my background. Infrastructure systems. And I talked about the word digital and integration of systems. This seems to be hotly debated at the moment. It's about that building the business case to demonstrate innovation paying off. Therefore, inspiring people to invest in infrastructure investment on a sensible level, and accepting that it will be probably more than 2 years to get your capex recovered. Infrastructure risk and resilience. There's a lot of talk around the KTN in various parts. For example, choice of materials, and actually looking at how we can develop assets where they're designed to be adaptable to climate change. We actually have just issued some thought leadership on that, but I can see that continuing with more activity and events to draw out the future opportunities there. And smart infrastructure as well. I talked about all that building data that we've been collecting over the last 6 years. This is something that we partnered up with the Catapult, the digital Catapult, where we've, over the last 6-7 years, as I said, 106 case studies up and down the country of building data into one spot and mineable. The problem is people don't seem to want to grab the opportunity to use that data. They think there's some sort of hidden cost, but there seriously isn't. And if you actually Google that, the Building Data Exchange, good source of data. I know you guys like data. Go and help yourself. You've paid for it, so you might as well have it. The other thing that you might find of interest is maximizing, in terms of maximizing the outputs of all the stuff that's already done, is looking at, as I said, assets, infrastructure, tunnels and bridges designed specifically to take on a changing environment. This is all available by just Googling things like Innovate UK and adaptation to climate change. I want to do more of this. It's all about time and resources, but I think this is actually where the sensible stuff is. We've got lots of partners that are interested in looking at how we can be designing our assets specifically or adapting them to take on the triple threats, etc. If you've got ideas, perhaps you've got something to say about it. Well, you'll need an email address. Did I put it in there? Yes, I did. There it is. So that's, if you would like to connect, perhaps you'd like to talk to somebody about the access to finance, you're a bit worried about Horizon 2020, you'd like to see some investment in Innovate UK in particular areas, drop me a bullet point email. I will collate. It's a quiet year, as I said, but next year, who knows? Bank might be open. Just thought I'd mention it. Okay? Right. Thank you. It's that quick enough. All right.